calculating your waist to hip ratio, you gotta make sure you have a tape measure, obviously. All right, so for the waist, you wanna stand up first, stand up, breathe out, relax. And you wanna record the smallest part of your waist. And then you will see where you are. I seem to be around 32. Now for your hip, you gotta make sure you go around the largest part of your buttocks, like this. Make sure you go around your butt when calculating your hip, and that. And mine seem to be around 40. And then after you get your measurements, you just divide waist divided by your hip. And for me, it will be 32 divided by 40. All right, for anatomical position, a person stands erect, all joints extended, feet parallel, palm facing forward, and fingers together. All right, so for superior, that means closer to the head. So for example, your neck is superior to the chest. And then for inferior, that means closer to the feet. So that means the neck is inferior to the head. And the interior means towards the front of the body, your chest. Posterior, we're more towards the back. And then for medial, it means towards the midline of the body. And then lateral is more away from the midline of the body. All right, so for the cardinal planes, the sagittal plane separates the right and the left half down the middle. For the frontal plane, separates the interior and posterior, like the chest and the back. And then for the transverse, it separates the superior and inferior at the waistline. That's it. All right, so for the medial lateral axis, it passes horizontally from side to side and it's perpendicular to the sagittal plane. So sagittal plane this way, perpendicular would be right here. That'd be the medial lateral axis. And then for the anterior posterior axis, it runs horizontally from front to back. It's perpendicular to the frontal plane. So the frontal plane is right here, perpendicular would be right here. And that's the axis for it. And then for the supero-inferior axis, it passes up and down and it's perpendicular to the transverse plane. So the transverse plane is right here, and the axis would be right here, perpendicular. Alright, so the center of mass is the point that represents the average location of a system's mass, and all the cardinal planes pass through it. So sagittal is right here, transverse is right here, and frontal is right here. The center of mass would be right around here. Many motions in the sagittal plane. Again, sagittal plane is right here down the middle, and that includes flexion, dorsiflexion, plantar flexion, extension, and hyperextension. So the frontal plane also has many motions in it. Again, the frontal plane is right here. That includes abduction, adduction, elevation of the scalp, depression of the scalp, eversion, inversion, ulnar deviation, and also lateral flexion. Now the transverse plane goes right along here. That includes rotation to the left, rotation to the right, internal rotation, external rotation, protraction, retraction, pronation, and supination. So for motions in multiple planes, you have circumduction, and that involves flexion, extension, abduction, and adduction. And then for pronation of the ankle, that requires dorsiflexion, which is like this. And then you have forefoot abduction going away, and then subtalar eversion, like that. And then supination of the ankle would be planar flexion, like this, like slipping on the gas. And then you have forefoot adduction towards the body, and subtalar inversion, also towards the body. Closed skill is a skill performed under standard environmental conditions. And an example could be a NFL football field. All the NFL players play on the same field, 100 yards. Each end zone is 10 yards. And the goalpost is the same, like the football is the same. So they're playing under the same exact conditions every single time they play. An open skill, that requires a skill that the player changes its way of playing based on how it reacts during the game. So for example, that could be for basketball. You will like dribble the ball or like make a certain change of pace depending on how the defense is playing you. So being able to react and determine where to go based on where the defense is playing you is very crucial in succeeding in your game. Motion is basically just a change in position, and translation is motion along one of the X, Y, or Z axes. And all points of the system move at the same time and in the same direction. Translation can also be, or also called linear motion, and there's two different types. It can be straight or curved. Rectilinear is straight, and curvilinear is when it's curved. Last two types of movement are rotation and general motion. Rotation is when a system is restricted and it moves on a fixed axis in a circular path, and it's also called angular motion. And general motion is what most human motion is, but it's basically a combination of translation and rotation. 8 different types of skill. We have discrete, continuous, and serial. Discrete is movement with a definite beginning and end point. An example would be long jump. And continuous is cycles of motion performed repeatedly with no well-defined beginning or end point. And an example would consider to be walking. And then for serial, it's a movement that appears to be continuous, but it's really a combination of discrete motions. An example would be a triple jump. Kinetic chain. Kinetic chain is basically a system of linked rigid body subjects for force application. Now you have simple and complex. Simple, like the arm, is each segment participates in no more than 2 linkages. And for complex, an example would be torso because it's linked to 2 or more segments. But not least, we have our open and closed kinetic chain. Open kinetic chain is the most distal segment is free to move. An example could be a barbell curl. And for a closed kinetic chain, the most distal segment is stationary. And an example could be push-ups.